What is up, Hawks fans? It's Matt from HawksFanTV here. Alex is actually out of town this week, so he will actually not be on this episode and it'll just be me. So we'll actually go ahead and get right into it. So I know last week we mentioned that we had three games this last week, two against the Pistons, one against the Bucks. The result is honestly what I would have expected if I, put money on these kind of things. We won both games against Detroit and then lost a pretty close one against Milwaukee. The Milwaukee game, I'll touch later on in the episode. I think that one could have swung either way, but hey, that's the NBA, and sometimes it doesn't always swing in your favor. So, going 2-0 against Detroit last year, I'm not gonna lie, guys, that's probably a two-game series that we split. I mean, I think almost the exact same thing happened last year where we split it. So winning both games, in my mind, was a sign of progression by the Hawks and something that I think we can all be very happy about. The first game, we did only win by 5 points, so not as large of a margin as we all would have hoped. And that game, it was pretty close the entire time. There never was any that huge of a lead gained by either team. And again, against a team that is, as inexperienced and just for lack of a better term, on the lower end of the talent pool, you don't want to see that happen. I totally understand. But I think 2 days later, the Hawks gave us the result that we wanted, with the 136-112 win. That was just excuse my French here, but a little bit of an ass kicking. And it just felt more like the result that we were all expecting to see with these two games against Detroit. Both of them were in Detroit. So, I know if they would have been split, one in Atlanta, one in Detroit, it may have been more difficult for both teams involved. So, them being able to not have to, do the extra traveling and whatnot, I do think that was something that was positive for the Hawks. So let me go over some box score stats for you guys here for the first game against Detroit. Trey dropped 35 points. If any of you follow my Twitter account, I did predict that he would drop 50 points in one of those two games. So considering he did 35 and 36, I mean, I know that's not too close to 50, but hey, I was on the money for saying that Trey was going to have big nights offensively. So, 35 points in the first game, 6 assists. DeJounte dropped another 14, 8 and 8. And that guy, he's, getting dangerously close to getting these triple doubles, man. So I think a triple double is in his near future for sure. John Collins started off the week strong, 19 points and 11 rebounds. Didn't have as good of a weekend. Again, I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later in the episode. Clint Capella, if you look at his stat sheet and you didn't watch the game, you're probably going to think he didn't make that much of an impact. He is not averaging that many points right now. I believe it's 8.4 points he's averaging on the season right now. But his rebounding, especially his offensive rebounding, is just something that is huge for the Hawks right now. It's something that we need as a team. Any team needs it, but we need it as well. So I think that's good that Clint's doing that. If you looked at his plus minus, he was plus 22 on the night, which was highest for anybody on the team. So Clint's on the floor. He's making a positive impact. That's quite literally what that stat is saying. So I think it is noteworthy that even though, Onyeka dropped another 10 points and had a few boards, his plus minus was negative 19. So, I think that's just a sign of just the experience in the league and knowing how to affect the game positively, whether that is by not scoring as many points and being a little more reserved on the offensive end or whatever it is, So I have no fear that Onyeka will get that figured out. He is right now averaging almost 10 points a game. So he's coming off the bench. He's producing at a decently high enough level for me to feel good about it at the moment. So Onyeka, the minus 19, never anything you want to see, but hey, it's sometimes you got to live with stats like that. So, some of the team stats, I thought this stuck out a little bit to me. The team only shot 36.4 from three on the night. So again, 3-point shooting has just not been that strong to start the season off for the Hawks. I think any of us that pay attention to the Hawks know that the Hawks normally start the season off a little bit slow, especially Trey. But I just was hoping, maybe like some of you out there as well, that it wouldn't be the same fortune this season and that we would have a little bit of a hotter start. And, it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. But hey, man, we got to make sure that 3-point shooting gets better as the game goes on. So, again, if you guys watched the game, as I mentioned a little bit before, it was a close game the entire time. Like there was just never really any team that pulled away from it, which, I don't feel anything about that. I'm very, very indifferent. It is not a huge positive, not a huge negative. So I will say the entire starters, all five of them did have a positive plus minus. So when you see that, man, you're probably going to win the game, and we won the game. So it's great. And as I mentioned, man, Clint's impact is just much more than the stat sheet. So any of you guys out there that aren't satisfied with Clint's play so far, I'm telling you, man, if we didn't have him, it would be a much different season right now. So that kind of wraps up game one in Detroit. Like I said, it was a win. It wasn't as big of a win as we would have liked, but hey, man, it's the NBA, and a win is a win. So we will take it. Moving on to the second game in Detroit, like I said, that result was something that I think all of us were more so hoping for both games. Well, really any game, but especially against a team like Detroit, and we, pulled off a 24-point win. Trey dropped another 36 points, 12 assists. DeJounte had 26 points. John Collins, that's why I kind of highlighted that he had a strong start to the week with his 19 and 11, but went 4 and 10 in the second game, and 10 rebounds is fine. There's nothing that's nothing to be ashamed of. But 4 points, I would like to see him filling up the stat sheet offensively a little bit more than that. DeAndre Hunter had 12 points, Clint another 11 rebounds, and Nyeke had 16 points off the bench. Again, I think this is a result we all expected. All players on the team except for one had a positive plus minus this time. If you're wondering, the one who had the lone negative plus minus was AJ Griffin. So I'm smiling as I say that because hey, AJ, you're learning, man. It's okay. We're not going to hold that against you. I do think it was pretty noteworthy. Aaron Holiday probably had his best game of the season so far. Friday night in Detroit, he had 28 minutes off the bench with 14 points. So again, I know Aaron Holiday has been somebody that, especially if you're comparing him to DeLon Wright of last year, he just hasn't been what any of us would really hope or want him to be. But I think Detroit should be at least some sign of that. Hey, if he is playing, on his better side of his game, he's going to produce for us and be a perfectly fine player off the bench. So I don't think that's anything to be too worried about. When Bogey comes back, his playing time is going to be cut down anyway. So nothing to really worry about too much. Again, going 2-0 in these games against Detroit, I think we really, really do have to remember that this is something that last year we would split 1-1. And I mean, depending on what time in the season last year, we could have even gone 0-2. So, you got to beat your lesser opponents. And as long as you're not playing down to them, which I understand, Wednesday kind of felt more like we were playing down to them as Friday, where we just, kind of beat the brakes off of them, especially in the second half. I know the first half is still pretty close. But it's 2-0 in the NBA against the same team. So I think as Hawks fans, we just have to realize that is progression, and we're doing what we need to do. So moving on to the third game of last week, it was against Milwaukee. It was a back-to-back. We played Detroit on Friday, played Milwaukee on Saturday. They had a back-to-back as well. They played the Knicks the night before. I'm pretty sure they beat them pretty bad too. So this Milwaukee game, it was exactly what I've expected it to be. It was a higher scoring game, and it was just incredibly entertaining. These are two incredibly talented teams, and you know what? I will openly and admittedly tip my hat to the Bucks at this point. I mean, I can't say at this point, it's been this way for a while now, but they are still the better team and are proven champions, and we haven't been able to get over that hump yet that is the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think it's something that we don't need to invest too much in that we didn't win this game. It's early in the season. They're playing lights out basketball right now, and I don't think we should invest into it too much. I know it was an upsetting loss. I know with that offensive foul call against DeAndre, I believe it was Wesley Matthews who it was against late in the game. That was, I don't want to say it was a horrible call, because I'm just not trying to be one of those people that your team loses and you instantly go and blame the refs. But I do think it was a bad call. I do think it was a judgment call. I do think at that point in the game, you just can't make that call. So it is what it is. It's nothing new for the refs to kind of just screw the Hawks over in a way. I think we all know what we're talking about. So I mean, it is what it is, man. I think the team for the most part looked great. Definitely some plays that I know the guys wish they could go back and redo, but you know, it is what it is. I think, I've been watching sports long enough. You almost have to lose games like that to grow as a team. So I'm okay with it. So, I'll go and go through some box score stats here. Trey dropped 42 points. So I mean, Trey was on a tear this last week offensively. 6 assists. I mean, excuse me, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. So just thought that was always noteworthy if Trey gets more rebounds than he got assists. So, Trey was balling that night, man. He was putting his best effort in that game and trying to put on a show and get his team to win. So definitely want to tip my hat to Mr. Young on that one for another great performance. DeJounte, another 21 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. I think DeJounte again is just going to fill up the stat sheet all year. I don't think he'll, obviously average as many points as Trey does, but it's just not what we really need him to do. I'll say this: I hate saying this because I should have included this in the Detroit game. I don't think I'm thinking of the Milwaukee game. I think I'm thinking of the Detroit game on Friday. But it was really, really nice to see when Trey had his routine rest at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Because Trey more often than not goes off in the third, and then he'll come in with 7-8 minutes left, maybe a little less in the fourth, and take over the game from there. It was really nice to see that. If I remember correctly, I don't think Trey even came back into the game. And it was because DeJounte just took over, and there was no need for Trey to come back in, and it was nice to see. I remember there were times where they even kind of put the camera on Trey's face on the bench, and you could just see like his body language with just pure relief, for lack of a better term, of that. Ah, man, this feels good that somebody else can take over like this. So yeah, just wanted to say that that DeJounte is. I think he's been everything that we've expected and maybe even more. So I'm just pumped that we have this guy, and as the season goes on, especially later in the season and especially the playoffs, we're all gonna love us some DeJounte Murray. I can guarantee you that. But to continue down the box score sheet here, John Collins again, 4 points and 5 rebounds. Just not a performance you want to see in a game like that. Again, he had a strong start to the week, and I'm by no means a John Collins hater. I think the hate that he gets from Hawks fans is a little unnecessary, but numbers don't lie. If you're putting up 4 points and 5 rebounds, even if that were for some other reason, it's you just want to see him produce a little bit more than he did. I'll be sure to definitely hone in on John over the next few games and see if it's anything, maybe some lingering injury or issue or something like that. But from what I could tell, that wasn't the case. So Clint got another double. Onyeke 6 points off the bench. So this game again, it wasn't our best performance. We still made it close though. Still could have won. Again, if one play or maybe one call or two win in our favor instead of the Bucks, right? So definitely a heartbreaker of a game, can't lie. But at the end of the day, it is something that it's you just got to live with it. They're that good of a team, that good of a team. I do think it was pretty noteworthy that the whole team, besides DeJounte, had a negative plus minus in that game. So just weren't being super effective individually or even as a whole when they were on the floor. So, but you know what, man, it was an evenly fought game, like I said, against proven champions. So I truly don't think this is anything for us to hang our head about. So it is what it is, and I think if you're gonna lose a game, I would prefer it to be lost, in some people's minds because of a bad call, or, maybe one of your players like John Collins was just having an off night. You know what I mean? So it was a perfectly fine result for me. So yeah, so the other game actually, normally we record on either Monday or Tuesday, so this would have not been covered in this episode, but we did play one more game since we are releasing this, and that was Monday's game against the Raptors. I actually was at a Halloween dinner party and was not able to watch that game myself. So I won't recap it too much. Like I said, wasn't able to watch it, and we lost by 30 points. So I will say this. I was checking the score when I was at dinner, periodically, and I saw that pretty much for the first 2.5 quarters of the game, maybe even the first 3 quarters, it was pretty close. Excuse me. It was pretty close. It was pretty back and forth. So, it was something that as I'm looking at the score on my phone, I'm like, okay, we honestly should be able to pull this off. So I have to admit, it was a little bit shocking when I got that final score notification and we did end up losing by 30. So again, it was an ugly loss. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I don't think it's, a loss that should make us think that, the Hawks aren't going to make the playoffs or anything this year. So don't get too worried about it, guys. I know with it being the Raptors, especially with, people, the sector of Hawks fans that may follow HawksFanTV, do know that the Raptors have definitely become a little bit of a rivalry for us here recently, but it's okay, guys. It's not a loss to get you too worried or whatever it may be. So we got to pay some bills around here, guys. So if you guys remember, Firminate Solutions is who we are partnered with at the moment. They're actually the company that is helping us present this show. They're doing great things, and we're excited to be working with them. So when you're reaching to build a physical network for the future, only the networks that can scale with technology will do. At Firminate Solutions, you have the industry leader in information highway construction building. It's going to be backed by leading manufacturers. Their service are white label, and they present them as your own. So, I mean, this is, something that, any growing company would want. Their clients get the contracts. Firminate provides the services. So, if this is anything that is sparking any interest in any of our listeners, or if you just want to check it out at all, because it's a great company, you can definitely go to their website and discover all that they do at firminatesolutions.com. Again, that is Firminate Solutions, FIRMAMENT solutions.com. Check them out, guys. They're doing great things over there. So now we'll move into the second part of the episode, which is just kind of previewing some of the games that we have this upcoming week. So as I mentioned earlier in the episode, we normally record on Monday or Tuesday, but we're actually recording on Wednesday for this episode. So later tonight, here actually in less than 2 hours, we do have our game against the Knicks. That's a game that I'm not going to downplay. It's an important game. It is. It's not just important because of what happened in the playoffs and with Trey. It's the Mecca. It's MSG. It's as much as it pains me to say, the New York Knicks are an important franchise in the NBA. So it's a great game. I am personally going to predict a win. I think at this point, after Monday's loss against the Raptors, that the team really just wants to go out and prove that they're not a team that gets blown out back-to-back games. So even if we do lose, I do think it'll be pretty close, but I do think we will win. As always, guys, I think Trey will have a huge night. There's just something about the stars going to MSG and just putting on incredible shows, whether that was Reggie Miller way back in the day, or Kobe Bryant, or LeBron James, or Dwayne Wade. If the stars are in MSG, they're putting on a show. So, I think we very well could end up getting the win in that one, but considering who it is, the opponent, the crowd, some of the, just outside aspects that could go into it. Sure, we could definitely end up losing, but I do think we'll end up winning. Both teams are coming in on 2-game losing streaks, and Both losses haven't been great losses for either team. I mean, no loss is a great one, but more so just saying that it's not like they were very close losses against these incredible teams. So I think both teams really, what I'm getting at, really want to win tonight. So it should be a damn good basketball game, and I'm predicting a Hawks win for sure. And then for the second game we have this week, it'll actually be coming back down south to Atlanta. We'll be hosting the 4-2 Pelicans with CJ McCollum, Zion, and Brandon Ingram. Pretty strong victory there, honestly. So I official prediction, I do think we will win that game. I think reason being that I think we'll win is because I think the team will be very excited about being back home and just want to put on a great show. They I don't think the Pelicans are an elite team, nor do I think the Hawks are an elite team. But I don't think it's a game that there's just no chance that we win it. So even if we do pull off a win against the Knicks, so I think it'll be a 2-0 week for us. Well, 2-1. We did lose the Raptors this week, so basically starting each week 2-1. I think that's a perfectly fine pace to stay on for the rest of the season if we were to do that. So I think I think this week, since we already have the Raptors game in the rear view with that 30-point loss, and with the Knicks and the Pelicans, it's two better teams than worse, and I think it's two winnable games as well. So I think we can end this week 2-1 and get right back on track and go into next week with that home game against the Bucks and try and actually pull that victory off that time. So before I wrap this episode up though and let you guys go, I just want to point out some stats for so far in the season that I think are noteworthy. Trey right now is 10th in points and 3rd in assists. So 10th in points, he'll keep climbing that. But I think the chance of Trey repeating to lead the league in points and assists is legitimately there. And considering that he was only the second player to ever do it, and Tiny Archibald was the other, and Tiny did it in one given season like Trey did. I think if Trey did it 2 years in a row, I truly do think it would put him in a tier historically that is on another level. Not saying that he would be the greatest player of all time, but just I don't know how you can put up stats in a modern game and that be ignored. So another stat that really pointed out, that stuck out to me, is so with ESPN's Basketball Power Index, which if you guys aren't familiar with how that really works, really essentially just what it is that they simulate the season 10,000 times, and then based off the results from there, they obviously average it all out and say these are the chances of this happening or whatnot. So so ESPN's Basketball Power Index, which is BPI, has us right now winning 48 games, which is a little under than what I would have expected in the beginning of the season. But I mean, 48 is nothing to be ashamed of. And with a 94.7% chance to make the playoffs, which puts us at 4th in the East and 8th overall in the NBA. So I know, guys, and this was updated after the Raptors loss. So I know after the Bucks loss and the Raptors loss, not feeling great. Confidence is a little low right now amongst the fan base. But I do want you guys to read that stat and hear that we have a 95% chance of making the playoffs, and are probably going to win 48 games. So I don't think there's the panic. It just needs to be a little lowered. Currently we're 5th in the Eastern Conference, so that's kind of almost exactly aligned with those projections from the BPI. So definitely don't think that us losing these last 2 games is any indication that the season is a wash, because it certainly isn't. So I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Gotta always end it on a positive note. The Hawks are virtually middle of the pack for every team stat. And I bring that up to end it because I think with that, there's so much opportunity for improvement. But it's also not that we've started out so badly in some of these team statistics that it's, writing on the wall of that we're not going to be able to fix it. So I know the season is, not started how most of us want it to, but I still feel great. I still feel good. I think most of you should too. And it's a hell of a ride, guys. It's an 82 game season, and we're just getting started, man. So, um, again, want to thank you guys for listening and following Hawks Fan TV and supporting us and all that good stuff. And we will keep these episodes coming for you guys. Alex will be on the episode next week, so those of you who are big Alex fans, don't worry, he will be back. But I'll go ahead and sign off. As always, go Hawks, and y'all have a great night.